Okay, this is a almost a historical record of a series of events that's taken me over. And it started with a phone call, or it started sooner than, it started a little bit before that. I am underneath it all a blue state Democrat, which a long time ago used to be called a progressive or even a progressive Republican. I've tried to deal with my red state buddies, and I'm done with it. I would say that in several instances, the agenda, the Scott Walker agenda for governor, is to make everybody as miserable as the most miserable people in Wisconsin. And I sort of caught that, and the anger I was feeling I articulated to my friend Judy Haight. And I decided I wanted to get involved, but I'm really angry at the Democratic Party, and I'm angry at the way they threw the election, and I'm really angry that Trump is president. Well, I guess I could sit and be angry like everybody that voted for Trump or didn't vote or gave up, or I could do something. So I talked to my friend Judy, and she asked me if I'd ever heard of Mike McCabe. He's one of the Democratic candidates for governor. And it turns out that he is part of what you would call the progressive tradition in Wisconsin. And he addresses the question of why the poorest county in Wisconsin, I think it's Clark County, votes so overwhelmingly for Scott Walker. Another writer, intellectual, that I'm very impressed with, his name is Tom Franks. And Mike McCabe, in his book, Blue Jean Nation, quoted Tom Franks, who writes about the same thing happening in Kansas, where people who have no reason in the world to vote Republican might. And it's kind of a rhetorical structure that goes like this. You approach somebody who is down, at the bottom of things, and say, well, do you have health insurance? The guy doesn't have health insurance. And you ask the woman, well, do you get a living wage? No. Do you get benefits? No. Do you get family time off? No. Well, then why should that teacher, that cop, any of these other people have something you don't have? If you elect me, I'll take it away from them. And I'll be damned if that didn't work in Wisconsin. And it's crazy, because then we don't have decent cops, we don't have decent teachers, we don't have decent jobs for our kids, and you get kind of an increased immiseration, and then you turn to the people who did it and said, well, now what do I get? And they say, you get what we said you would. Now we've spread the misery around and we've kept the money for ourselves. Well, there was a time in Wisconsin when our motto was forward. And that was in the days of Gaylord Nelson up to even through Tommy Thompson, a Republican. At that point, Wisconsin's motto was was forward, and we met it. And it didn't mean forward in the race to the bottom. Okay, well, I told the McCabe people that I would do something with their book. I'll do a Midwest book review feature with it. But the question of why somebody doesn't act against in their own interests, and instead supports what oppresses them, is really an interesting idea. And part of the way that this happens is we get alienated. We don't talk to each other. We sit and we brood and we get more and more angry, and then we find something to blame. That's sort of like it was in Germany after they lost World War I. They certainly were guilty of war crimes. They certainly did start the war, but they wanted to blame somebody else. And you get that way, but if you start talking, networking, using the social media like I am, there's got to be somebody out there that knows that when I say I am the son of Edward T. Kaveny, who was Executive Secretary of the Wisconsin Public Service Commission from 1940 to 1963, that meant something. And at that time, we didn't have sand trucks forcing us off the road, destroying our roads, doing all the things that people think is good for Wisconsin. And a guy like Scott Walker couldn't have sold a chunk of Kenosha County off and given the Foxconn, what is it, $3.5 billion in tax amnesty. Okay, well, some other things that happened were kind of interesting yesterday. I'm a founder of a science fiction convention. It's fallen into the wrong hands, kind of people who have interpreted identity politics in such a way that it involves making little fortresses for the like-minded, and in fact throwing any diverse opinions out, excluding them, making them unwelcome, which was not what our intention was when we started it. We wanted to create a public sphere where people that were different could come together and talk. A friend of mine got excluded from the convention for voicing one of her opinions about who was appropriate to kill off in a novel, what sort of character, what sort of bad guys. And on the basis of saying, well, maybe you can't just categorically say, let's kill Nazis in our novel, she's now banned from the convention. Well, my idea was to lead an angry mob and take the convention back, but I've got more constructive things to do than that. However, I called my friend up, asked him about what had happened with his wife. And by the way, my wife and I had directed this person, Lisa Freitag, into medical ethics. And she got a master's degree in that field. She's got a book coming out. I'll probably do a video on that, because I also work with the development of a feminist meta-ethic. So what I'm just sort of doing right now, trying to capture the moment and the energy, and I have yet another confluence of things that happen. Some of you know, if you look at the different videos, you see that it's been I'm losing weight. Well, I got some help because I went into the Mayo program and talked to a woman named Faye last Friday. And it turns out I love the Mayo program as I understand it. And I'm just practicing it for a little bit right now. And what it does is sort of gives you positive behavior, and it gives you choice. And that means that there are certain things you can choose to eat a lot of, and other things you can't have as much. Like this morning, I started out, you're supposed to, I get, because of my size, 1,800 calories a day. I weigh 337 pounds. And if you do that right, that's a lot of stuff you get to eat. And if you make the proper choices, like this morning, I had 5 servings of vegetables in 1 cup. I mean, it's nothing. It's like 150 calories for nearly a pound of microwave string beans. Now, well, do I want to put some butter on that? Well, I could. Or I could have a handful of olives later with my 3 ounces of Canadian bacon. I mean, this is fun. You know, I used to, before, as a young man, I had quite a record for consuming things. I won't go into all the details because I don't want to be a bad example. But I can just about out-chug anybody on vegetables now. And I actually feel good doing it. I've made some little sauces. I have figured ways to use like Tabasco sauce, cut down on the sodium, read the literature, and instead of thinking about it as giving something up, I mean, I looked at some pictures my assistant had taken of me today, and all I gotta say is to eat your heart out when you see them, because I feel really good. And those of you who used to be too good to talk to me, well, that's your problem, not mine. I'm not sure where I am with this video. I do have another thing to say. I have a brother-in-law who sort of inspired me to go into early production of this video. He's an industrial engineer. He's a very smart guy. He likes Donald Trump. He likes Donald Trump a lot. He believes that Hillary Clinton is a traitor. And yet, in spite of all of the things which we disagree on, we can keep a civil dialogue. He says, Phil, you can say things about people in such a way that I don't feel like you're just being condescending to me. So yeah, I mean, the fact that Trump does not want to get into a nuclear war over Estonia, and he thinks that NATO should pay their own way, yeah, that's good. You know, that's something good. I guess if I waited another hour, I get to think of something something else good about Trump. But we've gotten to the position where we don't want a dialogue. We want to sort of jump on each other. As I say, I noticed this when I wrote a paper proposal that I'm doing for a Vietnam War course that I'm taking from Dr. Duxworth, a brilliant scholar, and I'm proud that she's on the faculty of UW-Eau Claire. And I wonder why she stays, considering how difficult it is for an academic to get a decent living wage in Eau Claire, and just, it's a shame. So I've written this proposal doing a deconstructive analysis of The Art of War by Lao Tzu. And I also had included into the proposal that since I have several of my friends were combat veterans in Vietnam and had served in the major actions, and I was a draft resistor and had spent time supporting them afterwards, I would have to say something about their first-hand experience. Like my friend Pat McCormick, Madison East 1962, who came back from his tour in Vietnam probably in 1964 and said, you know, we could never win that war. Those crazy bastards chained themselves to machine guns and they wrap themselves up with barbed wire so they can attack even after they've been shot 20 or 30 times. And I said the fact that I was a protester and could be friends to these people, and maybe their only friend, might be of historical interest to someone. Well, I showed this to this friend of mine, and what she got out of that was that I was asking for a free grade for being a protester. And that was the point where I said, well, I'm done. This is a tipping point. I'm not going to try to explain. If people choose to read my work that way, I'm not going to use that word that I'm going to say, but they can go take one at a Rolling Donut. So I guess that's my new approach to Phil Kaveny's book review. And oh yeah, I have one other thing to tell you about. I have this idea for a romance novel, and I only have a few lines of it at first, but it starts out saying, you were kind to me when I came to you as a stranger, and, well, I don't know what the and's going to be, but I think I'll write the rest of the story. All right, I'm almost done, but I want to say I could use some crowdfunding, and I could use some support on this. We're going to do a lot more worthwhile projects, and I really think we all got to get behind McCabe. I may be talking to him about him again. And it turns out some of my younger friends, which I didn't know, I feel like Rip Van Winkle, Jeremy Gradrick, for example, got elected to Eau Claire City Council. And we're going to have some kind of a democratic meeting for him. So my phone is ringing now. You can tell this is real world, real time, so thank you all.